Bandidos, today I bring you a brand new LMG build. And thanks to Season 3, we got a brand new backpack and chest piece that brings utter chaos and destruction to the battlefield. Let's do it!
Entering Dog Zone.
So I decided to go outside the box and bring you something different today. So this is leveraging two of the strongest weapons in the game, really. One being the Heartbreaker and the other using the Dare LMG, which is extremely fun to use, by the way. And all LMGs got a buff thanks to Project Resolve. The Heartbreaker has always been strong, so nothing to worry there about damage. And both of those bring some really nice, stable damage to the table using the talent called Perfect Flatline, which is going to give us 20% amp damage to pulse enemies. So there's a synergy going on here, but the focus isn't really on the weapons. The focus is actually going to be on the backpack and chest. In Season 3, we got a new brand set called Palisades Steelworks. And it's actually a pretty cool brand set because it's the easiest way to get armor on kill on your build, and it gives you 10%. So with the brand set, as usual, we get a named backpack and chest piece. The chest piece is called the Combuster, and it comes with the talent called Perfectly Explosive Delivery. Now, Explosive Delivery has been around for a while, so this is the perfect version, and it comes with an added perk. Let's just read it. Whenever you throw a skill, 1.5 seconds later after it lands, it creates an explosion, damaging enemies within 5 meters. Afterwards, here's the kicker. Explosions will occur every 5 seconds. So it's just boom, boom, boom. And so the damage scales with skill tier, dealing 25 to 100% damage of a concussion grenade. So ultimately, when you're running this chest piece, things that will be interesting to you will be explosive damage, skill haste, and duration, and of course skill tiers, and sometimes status effects if there's things like bleed and shock. Okay, so that's the chest piece. The backpack that was delivered is called the Proxy, and right now it's coming with a skill tier, which I'm not sure is the way it's supposed to be dropping, but it's dropping with a skill tier instead of an armor core, which I think is what it's supposed to be doing. I would go either way with this, actually. The skill tier is nice because it gives you some skill duration. Otherwise, you can go with armor or weapon damage there. I'd probably choose weapon damage, actually, on this. Perfectly tamper-proof. Now, tamper-proof is a chest piece talent, so they give you the perfect version for your backpack. So you can run tamper-proof on your chest and your backpack. Enemies that walk within 3 meters of your hive, turret, or remote pulse, or decoy are shocked. The arm time is 2 seconds, and then it's got an 8-second cooldown on that. With the right skill choices, you can really use those talents to your benefit. You can use them to spawn trap enemies, to trap them basically in the doors. You can use them to protect doors, to slow enemies down as they're coming out. You see that often in legendaries and in raids. Players guarding doors and shooting enemies that come out of it. But they come out of it so fast and sometimes so strong because they're very tanky that holding them still with a shock or distracting them with an explosion or staggering them buys you enough time to diss them down. And so you can use that same mechanic in general gameplay in the open world. When you know where the spawn doors are, you just toss your skills in front of them or near them to either distract the enemies as they come out or to shock them and hold them still, or both. And then you can also use them as a defensive barrier, you know, put one in front, one in back of you, or to the left and to the right to protect their flanks. And then the enemies will be shocked, alerting you that they're there, as well as holding them still so you can burst them down. And they're going to be taking damage from the explosions, which is more of a stagger effect that you're looking for than a kill. But if they're on their last leg, then yeah, you can take them out. Now, we're not running a skill build today, but you can. So you can totally wrap this into a skill build. But I thought I'd put together an interesting DPS build for you, not a striker, that will allow you to use these skills to your benefit. And I'm maining the LMG here because between the two, with the skills and the way this setup plays, I found it was more useful, actually. And I'm only switching to the assault rifle when I'm pressed or when I'm in a 1v1 more intense situation. As you can see, we're running 4 pieces of Heartbreaker. So Heartbreaker is an LMG assault rifle gear set. It's technically a tank DPS gear set. It provides you damage and bonus armor. It's got some similar stats to Striker otherwise. So you see assault rifle damage, LMG damage, 15% weapon handling, just like Striker, and then Heart Stopper. So headshots apply a pulse for 5 seconds. We've got lots to talk about there, so hold that thought. And then weapon hits on pulsed enemies at a stack of 1% bonus armor and 1% weapon damage on pulsed enemies up to a max of 50 stacks. So that's 50% bonus armor, 50% weapon damage, and those degrade. And then you got weapon damage and crits here. Now you can run as much armor as you want. I just decided to go all weapon damage for the most part, just because I'm using the bonus armor as a nice to have, but not leaning into it with this setup. All right, the gloves are weapon damage and crits, so basically everything's gonna look the same. Weapon damage and crit damage, weapon damage and crit chance on the holster. Now for the chest piece. The chest piece is the Combuster, as we discussed, and Palisades Steelworks, which is giving us 10% armor on kill. So that's more survivability on top of the 50% bonus armor. So we got weapon damage, crit chance, and then perfectly explosive delivery, which is giving us the boom booms. And then if we look at our concussion grenade, just to know, we have 1.4 million there on the damage because the damage scales to that grenade. What did it say? So I assume 25% is the base, so that's 0 skill tiers, and then that means you have 75% over 6 skill tiers. That's the scaling there. That's about 12.5% per skill tier. We have 1 of those, so we're about 38% of our concussion grenade. So you see I have a red core here, and you're probably thinking that this is a unicorn. It's sort of not, I gotta say. Just think about it here real quick. When you're farming for the Combuster, it's always gonna come locked in with the talent. So what makes chest piece difficult to farm is that you're looking for the talent and the attributes so that you can change the core. But in this one, the talent's locked, so all you're looking for is the attributes. And so it's been raining this chest piece. I don't know if you've been having the same experience, but I can't help getting these chest pieces. I mean, if you go into Countdown and turn on Palisades, it's gonna rain Combusters and Proxies. Odds are you're gonna get this at some point or another, but don't sweat it. At least if you could try to get crit chance, you'll probably be in good shape. But let me tell you some alternates here. Crit chance with armor regen, crit chance with status effects, crit chance with skill haste, even crit chance with skill damage if you decide to use a damage skill, which I'm not. Weapon handling, headshot damage, all the attributes are gonna work here for you. Anyway, so we got the red core. So let's look at the backpack. So the backpack is the proxy. Like I said earlier, it's dropping with the skill tier. Now we're running 2 pieces. That's giving us 60% health, which is sort of just okay, but you can't avoid that. If you want to put the backpack and chest together, you're gonna be getting the health. So mine came with crit damage already. I rolled crit chance, and then I decided to put a skill duration mod here because when it comes to the way this worked, I felt like duration was important, more important than the crit damage. Lots of other options here I could have used, but skill duration doesn't drop as an attribute. So I just went ahead and used the mod slot there and kept the crits and the skill tier. We'll talk about the skill tier in a minute. But anyways, perfectly tamper proof. So we're gonna be putting out that shock. So shock and explosions. Now the big question is, from there, which skills to use. Now, if you're running a full-on skill build, your choices are probably gonna be different. But if you're running a DPS build and looking to minimize skill tiers, then these are the skills that I suggest. So one being the decoy, which is a really good skill for DPS builds, by the way, and for LMG builds, because with LMGs, you got a very large mag, and so you wanna hang out of cover and shoot as long as possible. And with the decoy taking aggro away from you, distracting the enemies, that allows you to put out more shots. Also, we're looking at cooldowns and durations that sort of make sense with what we're trying to do. So we got a 22, 23 second cooldown and a 24-second duration. So that's pretty darn good, enough to draw down your mag, get into a reload as it's on cooldown, get back out and start putting out some shots, and then toss back out your decoy. So you're not really missing it when it's not out there. So remember, the backpack and chest talents as well as the skills are here to complement your build, but this is still a general DPS build. You might find this interesting. So I decided to go with the remote pulse for the same reason. Look at the cooldown, 18.2 seconds. The duration is 67 seconds. That's a pretty good duration, and it's scanning and driving a pulse out to the enemies, and that's helping our build. So there's a synergy there because Heartbreaker and our weapon talents get damaged when we have pulse targets. I thought this was a pretty cool one to use, actually. I really enjoyed using it. Again, shock and explosions. And so a quick look at the dare. So I got stability here, crit chance there, large mag. It's got a crit scope. We got that skin. Health damage, which I didn't mean to, actually. I just realized that. Sorry, that's a mistake. So what we want to do is tinker this. We should have been doing a lot more damage than we were. So let's tinker this, put this out. Sorry, my mistake. So all the gameplay footage is running damage to health, which isn't the worst thing, but damage to armor to be better. There we go. Now we're cooking. So 250 to mag, nice, right? 750 RPM, really good. And then we have damage to armor, damage to targets out of cover, which is pretty high. LMG damage, decent reload. There's that 20% amp damage. So that scanner is allowing us to go for body shots to build our stacks for Heartbreaker. Now, if your scanner's not there, if it's on cooldown, just hit a headshot and it'll pulse the target. And that's a temporary measure. The Kingbreaker is basically the same thing. I got damage to targets out of cover on this one. And then it's got perfectly flatline as well. So 2 really good weapons. And then we got stability and crits everywhere and a larger mag. And notice I'm running gunner. So that's giving me better mods here for my remote pulse. It's also giving me a bigger mag on the LMG, by basically 30 rounds from what the base option is. It's giving me 10% more armor on kill. So now we're at 20% armor on kill, plus the 50% bonus armor, which isn't too bad. Now, if you're gonna run armor on this, totally do it. You know, I wouldn't really, on this setup, run more than 1.1 million in armor, maybe 1.3 million in armor tops. I wouldn't go too tanky with this one. And the reason why is because you're missing your backpack and chest damage talents. Normally I run the Heartbreaker chest piece when I'm running a Heartbreaker, so this is unusual for me to run it this way. So that's why I suggest you go with more red cores and you do armor cores in this setup. But if you wanted to lose the skill tier, that's okay. So lose the skill tier on the backpack. And if you do that, I suggest you run another skill duration mod to make up for the lost skill tier. That would usually do the trick. I know a lot of you are already thinking this. So another thing you could do is actually equip Technician. Make sure you have LMGs and assault rifles equipped here. So that's going to give you an extra skill tier. And then what you could do is actually get rid of your pulse and arm yourself with a turret. And by doing this, the cooldown is roughly the same as the pulse, but you get a really long duration off of that assault turret. This is a really good idea. Okay, so whether you do Technician or not is up to you. But if you do this, then what's going to happen is you're also going to be able to put a laser pointer on your assault rifle, and that's why we were able to get rid of the pulse. The downside is that Dare sadly doesn't allow you to equip that mod. I always thought that was strange and annoying. You lose the larger mag, but that's okay. You can just put on a 35 rounds, that's enough. And you lose 10% armor on kill. So you can be leaning into that armor on kill here with your bonus armor. So I just wanted to do something different and put the armor on kill with this and lean more into the remote pulse. But when it comes to skill uptime, the turret is king. So you can still do this with gunner and run your turret. Let me show you what that looks like. So look at our duration here. It's 251 and 22. So if we go back and activate gunner and keep the same skill, we're at 251 basically. So it's still, there's not much changed, right? So it's still gonna be the same duration. So you can still run gunner. And then if you decide that you wanna go this way, then what you would do is put the pulse on instead of the decoy. And then that's gonna allow you to utilize these really good mods here, but also not have to use the assault rifle as your main. Honestly, you're gonna like the Dare more on this build, I did. And you're gonna have your pulse to both weapons. And so that's gonna allow you to put your crit chance down here instead. This is probably the best setup when it comes to maximizing your uptime and your damage and your survivability. So that's 20% armor on kill still. So this is probably the best combo. So all you have to do is swap out your decoy with the turret. Last but not least, the stats. So we're at 55% crit chance on the LMG and 90% crit damage, and then 55 and 90 on the assault rifle. Also, remember, these are more about amplified damage because of their talents. Heartbreaker is dishing out here with Heartstopper. Really cool build, really fun. You're gonna feel the chaos when you use this one. Explore, tinker. Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is TuxedoBandido, and this was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
Follow me.
I get it.